So,
on a lighter note,
on this week's episode of Epstein Didn't Kill Himself, the Epstein moment is just another entry into the growing catalog of instances where the government fucks something up, says, hey, something's fucked up. You should probably give us power to fix it.
Oh, we know. We're living it, brother.
So this is a bit of a two-parter, and we're not going to drag it out too long.
I always like how they think that they have to come out with a big declaration. The things are fucked up. It's like we're sitting there all battered and bruised and broken. We're like, yeah, it's pretty fucked up out here, huh? I didn't know that until you came with your microphone and suit and tie.
It's like that that South Park meme where it's like, I didn't hear no bell. Like, that's what we look like. I didn't hear no bell. So beat to shit.
That's America. Randy Marsh is American.
So on the Epstein segment, which we're going to try to keep a bit shorter because we went a little bit long on the McCain one. I warned you ahead of time. I was going to get heated. I was going to get heated.
Why would we go long?
We have a two-parter. And the first one, we're going to play
double your pleasure.
A brief clip from comrade Canadian Castro up there, who has some things. He's got some ideas about why people are mad at politicians, and you'll never guess. It has nothing to do with what politicians did.
We hit him with the track.
We'll call him C Pete. So
I'm
first,
back, C Pete.
So we'll play the Trudeau clip first, and then we'll talk about the ongoing clusterfuck that is California, which kind of adds a little cherry on top of this teachable lesson in the Epstein segment. So first, Trudeau has some thoughts when asked by a reporter about why he thinks there's been a rise recently in anger towards politicians or leaders in general. And you'll never guess, it's not Trudeau's fault. So have a listen.
True dat.
I'm just wondering, what do you think is behind the rise in threats that politicians are facing?
We've been through a lot as a country, as a world over these past years. Obviously, the pandemic.
We've been through a lot. Has nothing to do with what government did. Not a fucking thing. Didn't shut down the economy. Didn't, start turning the people against each other to make one group of people
second-class citizens. Didn't say this thing was going to kill millions upon millions. Didn't start a fucking threat over something that they already knew existed before it happened.
Yep, we've been through a lot, like the reverse manna from heaven. Instead of good things falling on us, just out of the clear blue sky, bad things happened to us. We had no control over the bad thing that happened, or more importantly, from the government perspective, what we did to address it. He goes on.
Increasing anxiety because of climate change, transformations of our economy.
Not once did I think about climate change the entire time they were saying I need to get a vaccine, that I needed to stay at home, stay away from my grandma for sure, don't work, don't gain money, don't pay my bills, don't pay my taxes. I get a check for $1,400 that just came out of fucking nowhere, apparently. But now I can't afford bread anymore.
Or, even if I did have anxiety from climate change, again, I guess that just happened to me out of the clear blue. I lived on this earth for 30 some odd years and had no worries whatsoever. But all of a sudden I started to get real anxious. Maybe it had something to do with politicians and world leaders saying, you should be terrified because the world's going to end in 10 years.
You're right. I should be terrified.
Again, Canadian Castro goes on.
Rise in mental health and addiction problems, particularly with the opioid crisis.
So people definitely didn't have mental health problems and rise in opioid addiction because the government says you can't grow a plant on your windowsill, or, lock yourselves in your house for months at a time and don't talk to anybody. And God forbid you go outside and get any sunlight, because your body definitely doesn't need vitamin D. None of that played a part in mental health and opioid addiction whatsoever.
And staying at home that entire time, totally removed from society as a whole, as we know, us humans are social beings. So what do? We turn to vices to seek comfort in that dark time, i.e. alcohol, i.e. cannabis, perhaps, i.e. food.
Which you get thrown in a cage for possessing.
Well, yes, of course. And then
unless you get a government
opioids.
permission slip.
All the addictive things that a disparaged population turns to when they see the downfall of their own lives. Interesting. And why was there a downfall in their own lives? Because somebody came out to a microphone, not unlike the one that he's talking into right now, and said that you can't live your life anymore. Because this magical virus that we have no idea where it came from might kill 2 million people if we're not lucky.
And you're probably a racist and secretly fascist if you even question where the virus came from.
How dare you?
You know.
To even bring it up, Dane.
Yeah. How dare you have anxiety over all of
I'm
those
gonna
things?
throw up all
just
that
happen
half a
randomly.
cake that I just ate. Because you said that.
We're gonna let Trudeau go on just a little bit longer.
The opioid crisis that has been ravaging communities right across the country. It's a lot of pressure on a lot of people. And unfortunately, there are no easy solutions for all these challenges we're facing. It's going to take hard work. It's going to take people listening to each other. It's going to take orders of government stepping up and delivering for people.
So 3 things there.
There's no
easy solution.
But there is.
We need to talk to each other, and it's going to take government action. Well, it seems to me that the easy solution would be limiting in any way we possibly can this one thing that created all of these problems. In terms of talking to each other, don't make me laugh myself to literal death with demonizing an entire half of your population because they don't get a medical procedure that you deem that they have
or
to have.
calling truckers Nazis because they stand up for their own rights. Just an idea, a thought, a careless thought. And by the way, what would that stall in delivering goods and services have done to produce around the entire country? Maybe driven prices up and made life even harder? And instead of trying to come to terms and talk to the truckers and find out what their true plight really is, he just said that they're all fascist, communist, Nazis, anything he had to say to turn your opinion against him because they have to be that way because they don't agree with what I'm saying.
That's right, you bigot.
Yeah, you fucking Nazi.
So, Trudeau is a one-man.
That'd be the most polite Nazi ever. A Canadian Nazi? Oh, hey, why don't you go over there and get that shower there? Oh, you don't want to? Okay, maybe tomorrow. Why don't you go back to your bunk? I'm sorry I disturbed you. I shouldn't have woke you up anyway. You're probably tired from not eating. Oh, you want food? Let me get you some food. I'll give you a little break.
We made you a bed at the bottom of that trench. Go ahead and lay down.
Why don't you go down there? Oh, you don't want to lay down today? Okay, well, all right, go back to your bunk, you sly little shit.
So Trudeau is a walking one-man. He's a meme factory.
God.
We literally could not create in a lab, for purposes of this podcast, a better caricature of a world leader
other than AOC,
Justin
Kamala
Trudeau.
Harris, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell.
Listen,
I'm sorry,
David,
I'm running out of the names that I know.
Art imitates reality.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So, piggybacking onto that, and another more closer to home, a domestic example of this government-created problem that now requires apparently a government solution.
We work in layers at the WMD podcast.
We have the ongoing basket case in California, which
I can't tell the difference between one slicks their hair back, one has a cute little calic, but they both say the same rhetoric and they look roughly the same.
Yeah.
NEWSOM and Trudeau.
So
that sounds like a pretty good 1980s white rap band.
I don't even know if there was such thing.
NEWSOM and Trudeau. Hey, yo. It'd just be that the entire time.
Castro. You get it right, David. Respect the man's heritage.
That does ring a little bit better. But anyway,
so
go ahead,
from California, we have this title, which really says it all, but we're going to quote at least one thing from the article. But the title says, quote, California asks residents to avoid charging electric vehicles due to blackout risk, days after unveiling a new gas car ban. So, for those of you who are not aware, California recently passed a law, I believe, to phase out all fossil fuel burning vehicles in the state of California by, I want to say, like 2035. You can't buy a gas powered car, at least not from a manufacturer, by 2035 in California. So, obviously, it is more than a subtle nudge to push people to buy electric vehicles, which are now, at the current rate of electric vehicle adoption in California, is placing such a strain on the energy grid in California that they're saying, don't charge your vehicle, aka apparently don't go to work or do whatever you need to do, or
take up running,
just suffer blackouts.
It's just like like every day it gets worse. Like the fucking inmates are running the asylum, or the patients are running the asylum. It's just like they fuck everything up, and then they just act like, well, who could have seen that coming? Literally everybody.
Yeah, everybody. Every single person.
Like
except you.
The Fed prints off 40% of the... we're going to keep saying it because they're going to keep coming back because our lives are kind of shitty right now because of the Fed printing out 40% of the dollars that have ever existed in all time. And they're like, we had no idea inflation would be this bad. Like, we all did. All of us dumbasses with at least an 8th grade education said, don't do that. I'd rather survive on what I have so that when I come out the other side, I can actually use my wit and my bearings to get through this shit. But now you've just set another hurdle in my way.
This is a perfect encapsulation of the age-old debate that David and I have with each other on this podcast all the time.
Can we say it? Let's 1, 2. Are they stupid or are they evil?
See, because if they were just stupid, well, I mean, that explains that, Occam's razor, right? The simplest answer is usually the correct one. They're literally this stupid and can't see 2 inches in front of their nose to realize, well, if we make everybody go electric, and the one quote from the article I want to say, quote, if left unmanaged, the power demanded from many electric vehicles charging simultaneously in the evening will amplify existing peak loads, potentially outstripping the grid's current capacity to meet demand. So wait a minute. You mean to tell me that,
you stupid fucks,
that in the average charge time of an electric vehicle, which is roughly 8 to 11 hours, unless you're at one of those like Tesla supercharging stations, but 8 to 11 hours to fully charge your vehicle. So you mean to tell me that people go to work in the morning with their electric vehicle and then they come home at night roughly at the same time and they all start charging their vehicles at the same time? You mean to tell me that you're that fucking stupid you couldn't foresee that might be a problem? Especially when you have, I think, what's the average like market penetration of electric vehicles right now for just general personal vehicle ownership? It's only like 3%. Now, maybe it's higher in California, but the point is, it's a very small subset of the driving public, and you're already having power grid issues. And so on top of that, you're going to pass legislation to make every person in the state incapable of buying a fossil fuel vehicle within what's that, 22 to 35? What is that, 13 years? You think the market is going to adapt in 13 years just on government simple say-so? Or are they evil? Which, as David and I have pointed out many times before, this is a not so subtle way to get you to accept a lower standard of living.
And even
you want to drive? Can't drive because you can't charge your vehicle. You want to not have blackouts at fucking 6 p.m. because everybody's charging their car at the same time? Too bad. Deal with it, citizen. Take this lower standard of living and enjoy it.
My point being is, even if you can suspend your disbelief for all of that, they would have had to have at least 1 or 2 meetings before they came out with a statewide decree. And you're telling me that no one went, Miss Clifton, Miss Clifton, Miss Clifton, couldn't this be a fucking problem in the beginning? In a long-term point, if everyone, if 100% of the people have a car that's charging at the same time, we can't even keep our water flowing to all of our citizens. Like when we have rolling blackouts now, and we still have fossil fuel cars. So, like, shouldn't we take that into consideration? Good point, Johnson. I wish next time you'd shut the fuck up and let us do our goddamn job. Okay? We know what's best for the world. We know what's best for this community. It's electric cars, goddammit. Push it, Ray. Sullivan, make sure Johnson's taken care of.
So, listen, before we move on to the main part of the episode, I just want to close
I
up
didn't know
with,
why Miss Clifton was talking with like such a
I didn't
bravado
know.
voice.
I didn't know you were still doing Miss Clifton. I thought it was just to do the hand wave and then
Yeah.
Before we move on to the main part, just one very insightful quote from Nobel Prize winner F.A. Hayek, who had this to say about the quote unquote, he didn't call it this, but it's been called before, the dismal science of economics, right? It's boring. Nobody cares about economics. Who cares? Certainly not politicians, apparently. Because Hayek had this to say, which really kind of answers the whole thing that's going on in California. He said, quote, "The curious task of economics is to demonstrate to men how little they really know about what they imagine they can design." See, because Führer NEWSOM thinks that on his simple decree, by the waving of a pen and a picking up of a phone, as Obama would say, Gavin Newsom can just completely abolish scarcity. He can say, who cares what the power grid's capable of now? I wrote an edict, damn it, so the power grid will accept it. He can completely upend the law of supply and demand just because he is a powerful politician who says so. And that's exactly what Hayek is getting at with that quote. Newsom and the rest of the mental marginals out there running California really think that they can have these grand designs and just force people to do things that they don't want to do at the pace that they demand they do it. Well, life is about trade-offs, if nothing else, and you might have to give some things up. And Gavin Newsom is, much like we learned during COVID, he's willing to make you give it up, even if he doesn't want to give it up himself.
Give up your gas today, give up your freedom the next day, and give up your life after that. And then you'll be free. Right, Dane?
That's right.
Just keep giving.
You know, and as a matter of fact, in terms of giving, I believe that Biden's speech last night is all about giving of yourself completely over to him and the regime that he is the head of.
To the religion known as democracy. Moreover, the Democratic Party.